Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks news pack for Tuesday, March 29th. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. You could also subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As we had our podcast yesterday recapping the Vancouver Canucks and St. Louis Blues game, and where we need to start, and we'll just get right to it today with this because of the news of Eugene Melnyk, the owner of the Ottawa Senators, passing away yesterday. He was 62. He uh, he there was the statement is he was a proud Canadian, passionate hockey fan. It was an illness that he faced with determination and courage, and there's been a lot of tributes about from him. Um, he was a founder of Bioville Corp. He also owned the Ontario Hockey League St. Michael's Majors. Well known for being a big player in the harness racing injury. He decided to step back from horse racing in 2013. He was inducted into Canada's Horse Racing Hall of Fame back in 2017. Loved competition, uh, and his longtime partner was Sherilyn Anderson. And on back on May 20th, 2015. This, by the way, this great article from Bruce Garriock from the Ottawa Sun. Melnyk had a life-saving liver transplant at the Toronto General Hospital. And he a public campaign. There was a public campaign for that. He was only days away from death back then when that match was found. Um, so uh, I mean, there's been. We talked about this yesterday. He's been the brunt of a lot of controversy, and there's a lot of complications with talking about him and sort of the history of Eugene Melnyk. Pierre Dorian was very emotional today, speaking about him in the at the GM's meeting. He, you know, he, but yeah, it was a really sad day for the Senators community. It's a very sad day for hockey, and Ian Mendez tweeted today, in so many ways, Eugene Melnyk was a paradox. He is the man that saved the franchise. He did save the franchise, the Ottawa Senators franchise, from bankruptcy. He was also the alienated a large portion of the fan base and several star players. One of them happening to be Daniel Alfredson. He has Ian Mendez has a great article about Eugene Melnyk in the Athletic. So there's some really good reads about Eugene Melnyk. I think far it's easy to just look at what Eugene Melnyk, some of the comments he made in public. It's a complicated one for a lot of people, and it's understandable how you would feel. But our thoughts are with the Ottawa Senators community, the Melnyk family, and Senators fans. So that's where we were. That happened. The announcement of the passing of Eugene Melnyk happened just as we were getting started on our podcast yesterday. So recast the Canucks lost to the St. Louis Blues 4-1. So um, it's yeah, very sad day, and we had to start there. Let's before we'll get into the games today, a couple of the uh, other news. The big news is the salary cap will be increased from 82.5 next season, a $1 million increase. It's um, He anticipates a cap to increase by 1 million after, which he says is going to be projected after the 2024 season. So that the cap is going up there as well. Significant from the Flames' perspective, the two teams that we cover, as that helps. How that will help Troy Brouwer comes off the books next year, so that's an additional, when you add the 1 plus the 2.5, Ryan Pike pointed that out, that would be $3 million. And if Satyar Shah tweeted this out today, with the cap going up $1 million next season, the Canucks could have upwards of $17 million in cap flexibility. Ferland and 16 roster spot. The accounts for Ferland on LTI are with 16 roster spots taken by including with Burrows in a depth DB spot, and of course you can still carve out cap space there. So it's going to be an inch. Yeah, that will be. Will help some teams, of course. Lots of teams were cap strapped as we headed into the trade deadline, and there's a lot of course, in Calgary, you've got Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk, Andrew Mangiapane, and Oliver Shillington to sign. And in Vancouver, you've got the decisions around Bo Horvat, JT Miller, Brock Besser. So that $1 million, while it's not significant, can help a little bit in going forward. The other thing that was significant that came out of the news from the NHL general managers meeting was around the World Cup, and there will not be a North American North American Team Europe. It's going to be represented by all the countries. When the plan is, we'll have to still wait and see when the World Cup is, what that's coming up. But there is a plan to have the World Cup, and the idea is to have it in 2024. Now, whether this goes ahead, I think I will leave it up to you to make that decision, but there is a plan to go forth with that. The Calgary Flames tonight are playing the Colorado Avalanche, and today the top two teams in the Western Conference in terms of the two first place teams. Colorado will come into the game 46-14-6 with 98 points. They are 14 points ahead of the riding hot Minnesota Wild, who beat them in their last game in overtime. The Flames, 40-17-8, have 88 points. They're 7 points ahead of the LA Kings, who took a 6-1 loss to the Seattle Kraken last night. And from the Kings' perspective, they only have the Oilers 2 points behind them. So Flames are on a course coming off that 9-5 win over Edmonton. So this is another significant game. According to the lineup today that Pat Steinberg tweeted out, lines go as follows: Lindholm, Gaudreau, Tkachuk, Backlund, Mangiapane, Toffoli, Yarncroc, Dubé, and Coleman. Sean Monahan expected to get back in the lineup. Milan Lucic and Trevor Lewis. So that means Ryan Carpenter and Brett Ritchie will be sitting. Noah Hannafin and Rasmus Smith-Anderson will be on defense. Oliver Shillington with Chris Tanev, Nikita Zadorov with Eric Goodbranson, and Jacob Markstrom will get the call in goal. For the Avalanche, the Nathan McKinnon got into a fight on Sunday, and he is out here, and so he will not be in the lineup. He was sent back home, actually, so he traveled with the team, but he's sent back home. Samuel Girard is another injury. He's returning to the ice back in Denver. McKinnon got into a fight with Matt Dumba as well. The Avs are currently without not only McKinnon, but Gabriel Landeskog, Ryan Murray's not in the lineup, and of course Bowen Byron is also out as well. Expected Darcy Kemper will get the call in goal tonight for the Colorado Avalanche. So big game, Flames and Avalanche tonight. There are 8 other games in the National Hockey League today. We will get to look at them here as well, as the Toronto Maple Leafs are taking on the Boston Bruins. And as we look at the standings here, the Toronto Maple Leafs are 41-19-5 at 87 points. Tied with the Bruins, who have the exact same record and the exact same amount of games. They are 1 point behind the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Bruins are on a 4-game winning streak, by the way, and that included a win against Tampa Bay. So big game there. Carolina is taking on Tampa Bay. They had quite a great game last week, so that should be a good game to watch, Carolina and Tampa Bay. Carolina has won 2 in a row. They beat Washington 6-1 last night. Tampa Bay has won 2 in a row after they had a bit of a stumble. They could be on their way back, so that will be a good game. Got the Montreal Canadiens taking on the Florida Panthers. By the way, Kent Hughes, general manager of the Canadiens, said Martin St. Louis should stay on as a Montreal head coach. So, and the New York Rangers are taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. That should be a lot of fun as well. Pittsburgh comes in with 90 points. The Rangers come in with 89 points. Pittsburgh coming off the 11-2 win over the Detroit Red Wings on Sunday. The New York Islanders are taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Two teams out of that playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. You got the Ottawa Senators taking on the Nashville Predators. For the Predators, the Predators are still sitting at 80 points, 38, 24, and 4 in that first wild card spot in there. And you've got Philadelphia Flyers taking on the Minnesota Wild. The Wild on that 6-game winning streak, really rolling right now. Might be one of those teams that you are afraid to miss. And the Dallas Stars are taking on the Anaheim Ducks. And Stars are sitting at 75 points, 1 point behind the Vegas Golden Knights for that second wild card spot. The Anaheim Ducks have lost 9 in a row and have fallen out of playoff contention right at this particular point in time. So those are the games that are going on. A couple of other things here. Also, no trade lists was also a talking point, by the way, at the GM's meeting, of course, after the whole Evgeny Dadonov mix-up. It looks like that they will want that to be added to the central registry as well. Who is on a player's no trade list? LTIR was talked about, and Bettman said the Commissioner Gary Bettman said the NHL investigative process involving players on LTIR is pretty thorough. He said, and this is a quote, "It was a good discussion because I believe overwhelmingly the view of managers there hasn't been a problem for the last 17 years. It's more perceptual. Nobody thinks it's being abused. There's always an adjustment that people would like to make to the collective bargaining agreement. This is something that would be nice to adjust to change the perception, but I don't think it's viewed that it's been a problem because it hasn't been." That's a quote from Gary Bettman on that. Brad Treliving said you can't just put someone in LTR and that's your capper without the league going through that with a fine-tooth comb. So there's been legitimate injuries. That's the way the system is set up. You can do certain things. I don't necessarily look at it as being abusive. Are there areas that maybe need to be tightened up? Maybe. So that's a perception from Gary Bettman as well as a perception from general manager Brad Treliving on LTIR. Injury news here. Of course, we talked about Nathan McKinnon and Samuel Girard. Some other ones here, looking at the New York Rangers, Ryan Strome day-to-day with a lower body injury. He will not play tonight against the Penguins on Tuesday. Ilya Sorokin did not travel to the Islanders for the Islanders against the Columbus Blue Jackets. He sustained an injury in a 4-1 loss to Tampa Bay on Sunday. Zach Werenski, still day-to-day, will not play tonight against the New York Islanders for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Also, Brad Larson and assistant Steve McCarthy were placed in NHL COVID-19 protocol, so Pascal Vincent will be the coach against the Islanders. Carter Hart has an injury, will not play against the Wild tonight. Martin Jones will get the start. And Sean Monahan, of course, returns to the lineup. We talked about that. Kevin Labanc could play for the Sharks next week. He returned to the practice on Monday. And Jonathan Daldin also skated on Sunday and could return soon as well. Finally, Connor Bedard was on Donnie and Dolly today, and he spoke about Arshdeep Bains, leading scorer in the WHL. Him and Ben King are a really good combo for the Red Deer Rebels. Bains was signed by the Canucks here. Bedard said, "I'm a big Canucks fan. Nice to see them sign him. He is so smart in the way he sees the ice. He's one of the best passers in the league. The year he's having is insane." So some excitement there from Connor Bedard, giving that perspective about Arshdeep Bains. So that is the news for today. A careless reminder about the word of the week, which is on in Monday's podcast. You can have a listen to that. We'll be back tomorrow, Devin, Sean, and I, to talk about the Calgary Flames. We'll get into Johnny Gaudreau's Hart Trophy combination, and is Calgary planning a Stanley Cup parade a little bit too soon? A couple of things that we'll talk about for sure. Meanwhile, follow us all individually. Sean Beardy Canuck 03, Devin Gordhow 09, Tyler's TNOBLE. He had a yesterday. Another reason to check out the podcast is his experience refereeing the Koi Cup. Christian Schneid's SCHNAIDZ, as we wish him well as him and Hannah head off to Kelowna. And I am KEVOLE. And of course, Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, wherever you get your audio, and as well on the Area 51 Sports Network. Thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.